My parents announced at their wedding anniversary dinner, "We are going to Hawaii next week with the entire family for another party." Everybody was happy. Then I asked them, "What time is the departure?" Dad replied, "You don't know because you are not part of us. You can stay behind and take care of all the kids." So I dropped the bomb and their faces turned pale immediately. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Alan from Melbourne, Australia. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I stood in the kitchen, apron smeared with grease, flipping burgers on the grill while the house buzzed around me. My parents' 40th anniversary party was in full swing. 40 years of Ed and Carol, celebrated with a backyard packed full of family. My hands moved fast, keeping the food coming, while my siblings, Mark, Lisa, and Jen lounged at the picnic table, laughing with their spouses and letting their kids run wild. I'd been at it since morning, setting up chairs, stringing lights, chasing after my nephews who thought the cake was a punching bag. At 35, I was the eldest, the one who made things work. Always had been. The noise hit a peak when Dad clinked his beer bottle with a fork, standing up like some king about to decree something. Mom leaned against him, her grin wide, and the crowd hushed. "We've got an announcement," he said, voice gravelly from years of barking orders. "Next week, we're taking the whole family to Hawaii. Another party, but with sand and sun." Cheers erupted. Mark hooped, Lisa clapped, and the kids shrieked about surfing. I felt a jolt of excitement too. Hawaii sounded like a dream, a break from the grind. I flipped the last burger, wiped my hands, and stepped closer. "What time's the departure?" I asked, casual, figuring I'd need to shuffle some work shifts. Dad turned, his gray eyes narrowing like I'd asked something stupid. "You don't need to know," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You're not part of us. Stay here and watch the kids." Mom snorted, a sharp little laugh, and waved her hand like it was nothing. My stomach dropped. The table went quiet for a beat, then Mark muttered something about flights, and the chatter picked back up. No one looked at me. No one cared. I stood there, spatula still in hand, heat creeping up my neck. After all I'd done, years of fixing their messes, working construction to pay their bills when Dad got laid off, babysitting so my siblings could live their lives, they didn't even see me as family. I tossed the spatula onto the grill, grabbed my jacket from the porch, and walked out. Lisa called after me, "Felix, you okay?" But I didn't stop. The screen door slammed behind me, and I was gone, boots crunching gravel to my truck. I drove to my apartment, a cramped one-bedroom littered with reminders of them, tools from helping Dad rebuild the garage, a toy car one of Jen's boys left behind. I sank onto the couch, staring at the wall. 35 years old, and I'd given up everything: college, travel, a life for them. And I got that in return. A nobody. A babysitter. The anger boiled up, hot and fast, but underneath it was something else: tiredness, bone deep. I couldn't do it anymore. I thought of Hawaii, the beaches I'd never see, and then of a place I'd always wanted to go, a coastal city a few hours away, all docks and waves and freedom. I'd driven through once, years back, and it stuck with me. No one needed me there. No one knew me. That was the point. I didn't sleep. I pulled a duffel bag from the closet and started packing: jeans, a few shirts, my old work boots. No plan, just motion. I grabbed my savings, a thin stack of cash from overtime, and checked the bus schedule on my phone. There was one leaving at 5 a.m., before the sun even thought about rising. I hesitated, thumb hovering over Sophie's number. She was 16, the youngest, the only one who ever seemed to get me, but I didn't call. She tried to talk me out of it, and I couldn't afford that. Not now. The clock ticked past 3 a.m. I slung the bag over my shoulder, locked the door, and walked to the station. The air was cool, the streets empty, and my chest felt tight, like I was betraying something. But I kept moving. The bus pulled up, a hulking gray thing, and I handed over my ticket. The driver didn't ask questions. I took a seat near the back, by the window, and watched my town shrink away as we rolled out. Gas station, hardware store, the house I'd grown up in, all fading into the dark. I leaned my head against the glass, jaw clenched. They'd figure out I was gone eventually, when they needed someone to wipe noses or pack lunches. Dad's words echoed, "You're not part of us." Fine. If I wasn't part of them, I'd be part of something else, something mine. The bus rumbled on, carrying me toward a city I barely knew. And for the first time in years, I felt awake. Scared, yeah, but awake. I didn't look back. The bus jolted to a stop just as the sun peaked over the horizon, and I stepped off into the coastal city. My boots hit the pavement, duffel bag slung over my shoulder, and I stood there, squinting at the sprawl of it. Docks stretching out to the water, cranes looming like giants, horns blaring from boats I couldn't see. It was loud, alive, nothing like the quiet trap I'd left behind. I had no idea where to start, but that was the point. No one here knew me as the guy who fixed everything. I was just Felix, and I'd figure it out. I found a room to rent that first day, a shoebox above a bar that shook with bass every night. The landlord, a guy with a beard like steel wool, didn't care about references, just took my cash and handed me a key. It wasn't much, a mattress, a sink, a window with a view of rusted fire escapes. But it was mine. I dropped my bag, sat on the bed, and let the weight of what I'd done sink in. I'd walked away. No goodbye, no note. They'd be waking up soon, probably still clueless, and I wondered how long it'd take them to notice. Next morning, I hit the streets looking for work. My savings wouldn't last, and I wasn't about to crawl back home. I landed a gig at a cafe near the docks, some hole-in-the-wall joint packed with fishermen and delivery guys. The manager tossed me an apron and told me to keep up. I'd never poured coffee for a living, and my first shift was a mess, spilled trays, wrong orders, curses from the counter. But I gritted through it. No one yelled at me for forgetting diapers or missing a school pickup. It was hard, but it was clean. My mess, not theirs. That's where I met Sheila. She worked the register, all sharp edges and quick jabs, with a voice that cut through the noise. "You're slow, new guy," she said, smirking as I fumbled a latte. I shot back, "Least I don't scare the customers." And she laughed. A real one, not the fake kind Mom used to brush me off. Sheila was different, didn't tiptoe around me or expect me to play hero. She'd clock out and linger, tossing me tips about the city, like which streets to avoid after dark. I didn't say much, just listened, but it felt good having someone talk to me like I mattered. Days blurred into a week. I'd work, crash, then wander the city when I couldn't sleep. The docks drew me most, rough and real, with waves slamming the piers. One afternoon, I passed a pawn shop, its windows stuffed with junk. A beat-up camera caught my eye, a clunky thing I could afford. I'd messed with one in high school, back when I thought I'd be something more than a family errand boy. I bought it on impulse, figuring why not. That night, I took it to the water, snapped a shot of the pier cutting into the sea. It came out blurry, but I kept it anyway. Felt like a piece of me waking up. Back home, they still hadn't called. I pictured them, Dad barking about luggage, Mom fussing over sunscreen, Mark and Lisa arguing about who'd drive to the airport. Sophie might have noticed I wasn't there. She was sharper than the rest. But no one reached out, and I told myself I didn't care. I was free, building something, even if it was shaky. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed. Sophie's name lit up the screen. I hesitated, thumb hovering, then answered. "Felix, where are you?" Her voice was small, worried. "Mom's freaking out about the trip, and you're just gone." I leaned against the sink, staring at the cracked tile. "I had to leave, sophomore. I couldn't stay." She went quiet, then said, "They're mad, but I miss you. Come back, please." My chest tightened. She was the only one who'd ever asked me how I was, the only one I hated letting down. "I can't," I said, softer than I meant. "Not now." She sighed, and the line went dead. I set the phone down, hands clenched. Guilt gnawed at me, but I shook it off. I'd made my choice. The next day, I took the camera out again, shot the docks at dawn, boats unloading, workers shouting. The photos weren't perfect, but they were mine. Sheila caught me fiddling with it at work, raised an eyebrow. "Didn't peg you for artsy," she said. "Didn't peg you for nosy," I fired back. She grinned, and I felt a crack in the wall I'd built. Maybe I could do this, live here, be someone new. The city was rough, loud, unforgiving, but it didn't demand my soul. Not yet. I lay awake that night, the bar's music thumping below, and thought about Hawaii. They'd be leaving soon, or trying to. I wondered if they'd even miss me when the kids needed wrangling. Probably not. But I had this, the camera, the job, a start. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep going. I'd been in the city 2 weeks when it happened. My routine was settling, wake up, stumble to the cafe, sling coffee, dodge Sheila's jabs. I'd started to like the grind, the way it kept my head busy. The camera was my escape after shifts, capturing the city's edges, the cranes at dusk, the foam on the waves. I wasn't good yet, but I was getting there. Home felt like a ghost, fading with every day they didn't call. I figured they were too wrapped up in Hawaii to care. Then, the night before their big trip, my phone rang. I was in my room, sprawled on the mattress, scrolling through shots I'd taken that day. The number flashed, Dad. My gut twisted. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. Felix, where the hell are you? His voice was all gravel and edge, like I'd skipped a chore, not left my life. The kids need watching tomorrow, and you're AWOL. What's this about? I sat up, gripping the phone tighter. 2 weeks, and this was why he called, not to check on me, but to demand I play babysitter again. I took a breath, felt the anger I'd buried clawing up. I'm not there, I said, slow and hard. I left. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore. He sputtered. What's that supposed to mean? We're leaving for Hawaii, and you're pulling this. That's when Mom jumped in. I heard her snatch the phone, her tone sharp as a blade. Felix, you're being selfish. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. Everything they'd done? I almost laughed. Years of me propping them up, fixing the roof, bailing Mark out of debt, watching their grandkids, and she had the nerve to flip it. I stood, pacing the tiny room, words I'd held back for decades spilling out. Repay you? I've been your doormat since I was 18. Skipped college to pay your bills, worked my hands raw so you could sit pretty. And you tell me I'm not part of you? I'm done. Handle the kids yourselves. Mom gasped, then snapped. Ungrateful, that's what you are. You'll regret this. Dad growled something in the background, but I didn't wait. I hung up, slammed the phone on the sink, and stood there, chest heaving. My hands shook, but I felt lighter, like I'd finally cut a rope that had been choking me. I didn't sleep much after that. I kept picturing them, Dad cursing, Mom rallying my siblings to guilt me back. By morning, Sophie texted, "Trip's a mess. No one knows what to do with the kids. They're fighting bad." I stared at it, imagining the chaos. Mark yelling at Lisa, Jen whining about canceled plans, Dad refusing to budge. They'd built their world on me being there, and now it was crumbling. Good. Let it. I didn't reply. Work was a blur that day. I poured coffee, burned my hand on the steamer, barely heard the orders. Sheila noticed, elbowed me as she rang up a guy in a fish-stained jacket. You look like you punched someone. What's up? I shrugged, muttered, family crap, and she didn't push. But after our shift, she cornered me by the lockers. There's a photography class tonight. Friend of mine runs it. You should come, get your head straight. I didn't feel like company, but her grin was hard to argue with. Fine, I said, grabbing my camera. The class was in a warehouse, a dozen people with tripods and fancy lenses. I felt out of place with my pawn shop junker, but the guy leading it, a wiry dude named Paul, didn't care. He talked about framing shots, seeing stories in the mundane. We went out after, shot the docks under streetlights. I got a decent one, 2 workers unloading crates, shadows stretching long. Paul nodded at it, said, "You've got an eye. Keep going." It wasn't much, but it stuck with me. I'd never been good at anything that wasn't for them. That night, I lay awake, the bar downstairs thumping as usual. Sophie texted again. They canceled Hawaii. Dad won't pay for sitters, and no one's stepping up. I smirked, picturing their faces, Mom's pout, Dad's red-necked fury. They'd assumed I'd cave like always. But I was here, building something. The camera sat on my pillow, a weight I liked. I thought about Sheila, the way she didn't treat me like a ghost, and Paul's words about seeing stories. Maybe I could be more than their grunt. I got up, scrolled through my photos, peer, workers, a gull mid-flight. They weren't perfect, but they were mine. I'd snapped them without anyone telling me where to stand or what to fix. The phone buzzed again. Sophie, I wish you'd call. I wanted to for her, but not yet. She'd understand someday. I set the phone down, picked up the camera instead. Tomorrow, I'd shoot the waves at dawn. They'd crash whether my family figured themselves out or not. And I'd be there, not holding anyone's mess but my own. I'd been in the city 3 months when Dad showed up. By then, I'd carved out a rhythm, cafe shifts, late nights with the camera, a life that didn't revolve around anyone else's demands. The room above the bar still shook with noise, but I'd gotten used to it, even liked how it drowned out my thoughts. Work was steadier now. I could whip up a latte without cursing under my breath. Sheila had become a fixture, always around with her quick jabs and ideas, like the photography class that had turned into a weekly thing. I'd started a portfolio, shots of the docks and the people who worked them, raw stuff Paul said could go somewhere. I was beginning to believe him. That day, I was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine, when the door swung open and there he was. Dad. Gray hair thinner, shoulders hunched, same scowl I'd known since I was a kid. My hands froze mid-wipe. He scanned the place, locked eyes on me, and marched over like he owned it. Customers glanced up, then away. Sheila raised an eyebrow from the register but didn't say a word. Felix, he said, voice low and rough. We need to talk. My jaw tightened. I hadn't heard from him since the call, since Hawaii fell apart. Now here he was, uninvited, in my space. I nodded to the back, led him past the lockers to a corner where the hum of the fridge covered us. What do you want? I asked, crossing my arms. He shifted, uncomfortable, like he wasn't used to me standing tall. You took off, he said. Left us in a mess. Hawaii didn't happen, couldn't, without you. Family's been scrambling ever since. I stared at him, waiting. He rubbed his neck, muttered. I didn't think you'd stay gone. Look, I'm sorry it came out like that at the party. Come back. We need you. His eyes flicked up, expectant, like that was enough to erase it all. I laughed, short and bitter. You need me? That's why you're here? Not because you give a damn, but because your trip flopped and the kids are a hassle. He bristled, face reddening. Watch it, boy. We raised you, raised me. I cut in, voice rising. You leaned on me. I was 18 when I started paying your bills, 25 when I rebuilt your garage for free, 35 when you told me I wasn't family. I'm not your fix anymore. He opened his mouth, then shut it, fists clenching. For once, he didn't have a comeback. I took a breath, stepped back. Sit down, I said softer. Have a coffee. He hesitated, then sank into a chair by the window. I grabbed 2 cups, poured black, no cream, how he liked it, and sat across from him. He stared at the mug, then at me. What's this? He grunted, nodding at the camera slung over my shoulder. I slid it onto the table, flipped through the screen, shots of the pier, a fisherman hauling nets. Something I'm doing, I said. For me. He squinted at them, silent, then pushed the camera back. Didn't know you were into that, he mumbled. You never asked, I shot back. We sat there, awkward, sipping in silence. I didn't know him this, but I wanted him to see it. See me, not the guy who'd always say yes. He finished his coffee, stood. Think about it, he said. Doors open. I shook my head. I'm staying. He nodded, slow, like he'd expected it, but didn't like it. Then he walked out, boots heavy on the floor, and I watched him go, a knot in my chest loosening. Sheila sidled up after, leaning on the counter. That your old man? She asked. Yeah, I said, scrubbing a mug harder than I needed to. He's a piece of work. She smirked. Looked like you held your own. Oh, class tonight. Paul's got a friend with a gallery. Bring your stuff. I grunted a yes, mind still spinning. Dad's visit shook me, but it didn't break me. I'd built something here, and he couldn't take it. That night, I went to class, showed Paul my portfolio. He flipped through it, tapped a shot of a wave crashing over the rocks. This one's got guts, he said. Gallery's doing an exhibit, small, local. You should enter. I froze. Me in a gallery? But Sheila grinned, punched my arm. Told you. Do it. I nodded, half-dazed. Later, I sat in my room, photos spread out on the bed. I picked a few. The wave, the fisherman, an old shot of the family from the anniversary, faded and creased. Roots and wings, I'd call it. Past and present, tangled but separate. Sophie texted as I packed them up. Dad's quiet since he got back. Said you're different. I typed back, I am. She didn't reply, but I didn't need her to. Dad's shadow had come and gone, and I was still standing. The exhibit was a shot, my shot. I wasn't going back, not to who I'd been. I grabbed my camera, headed for the door. Tomorrow, I'd shoot the docs at sunrise. They'd keep moving, and so would I. The gallery night crept up fast, and I wasn't ready. 3 months ago, I'd been pouring coffee and dodging family guilt. Now I was pacing a warehouse turned art space, my photos pinned to the walls. It was a small gig, local folks, chipped paint, folding chairs, but it felt huge. My portfolio was up there, the fishermen hauling nets, the waves smashing the rocks, and that old shot of the family from the anniversary, all edges and tension. Roots and Wings, I'd called it, a name that stuck in my head after Dad's visit. Sheila had pushed me to do it, Paul had nodded it through, and here I was, palms sweaty, waiting for people to show. The place filled up quick, dock workers in clean shirts, artsy types with glasses, a few regulars from the cafe. Sheila rolled in, grinning, dragging a couple friends from class. "Look at you, big shot," she said, punching my arm. I smirked, muttered, "Shut up," but I was glad she was there. Paul worked the room, shaking hands, pointing folks to my stuff. I hung back by the wall, watching strangers squint at my shots. A guy in a flannel stopped at the wave photo, nodded slow. "Caught the power in that," he said, then moved on. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. But it hit me, I'd made something they saw. The night blurred by. People milled around, sipping cheap wine, talking louder as the hours ticked on. A woman with a clipboard, some gallery friend of Paul's, bought the fisherman shot right off the wall. $50, first money I'd ever made off a picture. I stuffed the cash in my pocket, half expecting it to vanish. Sheila toasted me with her plastic cup, said, "Told you had it." I shrugged, but inside, I was buzzing. This was mine, not a favor, not a fix, just me. No one from home was there to see it, and that stung a little, but it didn't ruin it. Later, I stepped outside for air, the noise fading behind me. The city hummed, horns, waves, a drunk yelling down the block. I leaned against the wall, thinking about how far I'd come. That bus ride out of town, the call with Dad, the coffee I'd poured him, they felt like years ago, not months. My phone buzzed in my pocket. "Sophie." I opened the text. "Heard you're doing good. Dad and Mom are trying Hawaii again, taking the kids this time. Weird without you." I stared at it, picturing them. Dad grumbling about luggage, Mom hurting the grandkids, Mark and Lisa probably still mad about the first flop. They'd figured it out, or close enough. I typed back, "Glad they're going. I'm good here." She sent a thumbs up, and that was it. I didn't feel the pull to go back anymore. Sophie's words used to twist me up, make me second-guess leaving. Not now. They'd moved on, and so had I. The gallery doors swung open, Sheila poking her head out. "You hiding? Come on, Paul's wrapping up." I followed her in, caught the tail end of him thanking everyone. He nodded at me, said, "Felix's work's got something real, keep an eye on him." A few clapped, and I ducked my head, not used to the attention. It was over quick, and I helped stack chairs, the buzz still humming under my skin. When the place emptied, I grabbed my camera and headed out. It was late, but I wasn't tired. I walked to the shore, the city thinning behind me, till it was just me and the water. Dawn was close, the sky graying, the waves restless. I set up my tripod, framed a shot, a single wave cresting, about to break. I clicked the shutter, held my breath as it crashed. The screen lit up with it, sharp, alive, mine. I sat there on the rocks, watching the light spread, and felt something settle. Not peace, exactly, but close. I thought about the family shot on the gallery wall, Dad's scowl, Mom's forced smile, me in the back, half cut off. It'd always be part of me, that life, those years I gave them. But this, the camera, the city, the wave, was what I'd chosen. They were in Hawaii by now, or on their way, and I didn't resent it. They built something without me, and I'd built this. Ties were still there, frayed and thin, but I didn't need to mend them. Not yet. The sun broke over the horizon, and I packed up, boots crunching on the gravel. I'd head to the cafe later, sling coffee, maybe show Sheila the shot. Paul had mentioned another exhibit, and I was already thinking about what I'd shoot next. The city stretched out ahead, rough and loud, and I walked into it, camera slung over my shoulder. I wasn't the guy who left anymore, or the one who stayed too long. I was just Felix, and that was enough. If Felix's journey hit home for you, Drop a like and let me know in the comments. What's the moment you broke free and chose yourself? Subscribe for more stories like this and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for listening. See you in the next story.